be available on michaels.com or on our YouTube channel. Okay, Megan, over to you.
Hey, hi everyone. This is always such a fun part for me to see when you're logging on and see where everyone's joining us from today. I see Florida, I see Minnesota, I see Arizona, I see Utah, which is where I am. That's actually my mom. I see her name up there. So hi mom, hi kids. But welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited. Summer is coming to a close and we wanted to go out with a splash. And so today we are going to be decorating a magical mermaid cake. I don't know if you can see, I think you can, but up here we've got lots of fun things that are all things ocean feeling and mermaidy and magical, from mermaid tails to sprinkles to frosting, candies. We've got some lollipops. We've got lots of fun things that are available now in your local Michaels for you to be able to pick up anytime and to create this fun cake and any other fun cake that you feel like dreaming up. My name is Megan Faulkner Brown, and I am the founder of the Sweet Tooth Fairy, the name that you see here on all these fun treats that you see in the aisles of Michaels. I just wanted to give you a brief little intro to me and my story, and so hopefully it will resonate with some of you, and we can connect in that way. But I am a lifelong hobbyist of what is now called food crafting. What I mean by that is, as a little girl, some of my earliest memories are of being in the kitchen with my mom and watching her bake and cook. My mom and dad had a little catering company for a minute. My dad actually would make wedding cakes for friends and family. So I grew up always in the kitchen, and I grew very comfortable and confident in there and trying new things. It became a creative outlet for me. And in high school, I worked in a bakery. And when I moved on to college, I worked in the food industry. I like food. So I just always felt comfortable around it. And, but I always loved to celebrate the special moments in life. So whether, that was congratulations, you graduated from high school, to yay, you won your state championship basketball game, or you had a new baby, or whatever it is. Those were the things that were so meaningful to me. And I loved to participate in those by making treats and helping people celebrate. So I refer to myself as a celebrationist, and it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. Well, when I was married, young, somewhat newlywed-ish, I started to supplement our family's livelihood by a small little company that called the Sweet Tooth Fairy, and I just did it out of my kitchen at home. So I got licensed through the state and the city, and I was a bona fide business, and I was doing it out of my house, but I just loved it, and it was so much fun. And that was a long time ago, maybe even longer than some of you have been around here on this earth. It was 15 years ago. And since then, a few years after we were just operating out of our home, we opened up an actual store, a real life brick and mortar store. And since then, we've had a lot of really amazing opportunities. We've opened several other locations. I've competed and won on Cupcake Wars on the Food Network several times. We've had opportunities to cater things for Disney and for CBS, and just some really awesome opportunities. And this opportunity today to be here with you is one that is so awesome. And I kind of pinch myself every day because of my relationship with American Crafts and with Michaels. We've been able to bring these food crafting items to you. And I've been a customer of Michaels forever, and I always go there to buy all the things I need for all things food crafting and baking and decorating. And so to be able to develop and come up with sprinkle lines and just different frostings and candies and suckers and different things, it's an actual dream come true. So that's just a little bit about me. Again, I'm super excited to be here with you. And again, I hope you know, I do have bakeries, but I still consider myself I'm a home baker. It's what I do. It's how I relate. I definitely don't consider myself a professional. I've never had professional training. I can't pronounce some of the fancy French pastries. Like I am who I am, and I just love to play with food and sugar and things. So hopefully I can relate to some of you in that regard, but I just wanted to say thank you again for being here. And now we'll kind of get to it. So like I said earlier, we are going to be doing our magical mermaid cake today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the bake ahead and prep that you can do to kind of make this whole experience go a little bit more smoothly. So I have actually pre-made some cake grounds. And the reason that I like to do this is, well, there's lots of reasons, but it's very convenient because life is busy and we all have lots of things going on, whether it's school or work or trying to manage families and careers or whatever. And so from start to finish to like start a cake, bake a cake, cool a cake, crumb coat, chill, like that whole process, maybe you don't have time to do that in one day. But maybe another day you have, a couple hours that you could bake some cake grounds ahead of time, let them cool and stick them in the freezer. Then when you are ready to decorate, all you have to do is, like I did, just grab them and they're ready to go. The other thing that's really great about baking them ahead of time and letting them cool, or freeze rather, I put mine in the freezer. You can see this is just with like some cling wrap type stuff, and it's just airtight. I like to do that because I feel like when I'm working with the cake, it's way more sturdy. And I'm sure some of you might know what I'm talking about, but like when the cake's a little jiggly and you're kind of apprehensive, like, oh no, if I keep pulling the frosting, then maybe like a little chunk of it might fall off or whatever. If you freeze it ahead of time, it really, really helps with that. It just makes it more like structurally sound. So that's kind of just like my little tip about some prep that you can do ahead of time. These we baked and we let them cool, and then we leveled them. And there are like little leveling doohickeys. I actually don't know what the technical name is, but doohickey works. But one other thing you can do if you don't have one of those is if you just this is not a real knife, but let's pretend this is a real knife that's blade is longer than the width of your cake. You can just leave your cake in your cake pan, and when it's cooled, you just take your knife and you just kind of gently like shimmy it across this way. So then you're using the sides of your cake pan as your guide to make sure that it's level. So again, if you happen to have a cake leveler, awesome, they're really great. If not, then you can just kind of do this trick where you leave your cake in the pan and then take a knife. Again, pretend this is a long serrated knife. And then you can use the edges of the cake to guide you to make sure that it's flat on top. All right, one other thing. Some of you might have home-based businesses where you are, making cakes and selling them, which is awesome. Congratulations. So one other thing that like I like to do is, even if I'm just doing cookies ahead of time or cookie dough ahead of time, is just take, a permanent marker and write the flavor and the date of when you made these so that you can like FIFO, first in, first out your inventory of your treats that you've made ahead of time. You probably all are already doing all of these things, but again, hopefully if there's anything helpful, I'm happy to share with you. So the next thing we're going to do is we are just going to get going on a crumb coat. I have Matt here. He's awesome colleague. Do we happen to have the vanilla frosting? Okay. We're going to have some fresh vanilla frosting made, but I should say we have a delicious buttercream line available at Michael's. Lots of different colors. This is a really pretty deep, like teal color that we'll utilize today in our class. But this is so convenient. But I also love to just make some from scratch. So if you feel the same way, then you can whip up your favorite recipe. I just use a traditional American buttercream. I'm happy to share that. I can provide that to Michael's for you. We've shared it before in the past with some of our other classes that we've done. But while they're finishing that, I'm just going to go ahead and start here. And I'm just going to unwrap the cake layer. This is a 6-inch cake round, just for reference. And before that, I'm going to rewind for 2 seconds. One other little trick. Okay, here's a cardboard cake round. And I'm just going to take a little bit of tape and I'm going to tape it on the bottom. Oops, like this. Just put a few of these little loop-de-loops. Now, if you have like a non-stick or a non-grip, no, not non-grip, that doesn't make sense. Those little grippy things that have the bumpy, the little raised pieces, the non-slip, that's the word I'm looking for. That's awesome too. You can just lay that down and put your cardboard circle right on top. That'll just help as you're frosting the cake, that your cake's kind of not shimmying around everywhere. We don't have one of those here in the studio, so this is just another little tip. Just put some tape on the bottom and just kind of press it down just like that. And now when I start doing the cake and I'm frosting and whatnot, it's not going to like slide around as much as possible. Bless you. We've got ourselves some frosting. Okay, so first of all, you're going to take a dollop of whatever frosting you're going to use. And I'm just going to spread a little bit in the center of this cake round. And think of it like glue. It's just the glue that you're putting down in order to make it so the cake actually stays on the circle. Let me get that little piece right there. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take this disposable pastry bag and I'm going to fill a little bit more of this frosting in there. And then we're going to trace a little, kind of like a dam around the outer edges of the cake. And this is especially helpful when you're doing like a jelly or a pudding or a mousse or like a softer filling. Today, we're just going to be using some of this buttercream as the filling. But I just wanted to show you how I do it so that in the future, or if you're at home and you're going to use kind of like a softer filling, then you can see it in action. So I just squeeze. I'm applying like an equal amount of pressure as I go around, like so. Oops. And so can you see how it's like a little rim? So again, imagine you're putting in your Jello or whatever it is, this outside of this frosting, oops, it's going to act as the glue that then will hold the next layer on. Because if you just didn't do this and you just straight up put like jam or whatever, your next layer is going to like slip slide all over the place. So there's that. And I'm going to show, because why not? We're going to audible here for a second. I'm just going to show you a little fun thing you can do. So I'm just going to take some of this frosting and I'm going to add, let's see, let's pick a sprinkle. We're going to add some of this pretty like sugar kind of rock candy to it. Just adding it in there. And then we also have these really cute baking chips that are like all different colors. So I'm just going to add essentially some chocolate chips in there just to have a little bit of texture and like a, I don't know, surprise when you cut into the cake. And this is going to be about a cup, maybe not quite a cup, that I'm going to put in the center. You know, it kind of depends on how people or how you like your fillings. There are some people in this world, believe it or not, who are not frosting people. And, you know, maybe they don't want like a thick layer of frosting in the middle. That's fine. You can just do a nice thin one. So your filling will just kind of depend on your taste and how much frosting you want there to be in between the layers. So all I did was mix it around, put it on top, and I'm just taking a spatula and kind of flattening it so it's nice and level. Then I'm going to take my next layer and I'm just going to set it on top like so. I'm going to repeat the process where I just apply an even amount of pressure as I'm essentially tracing a circle around the outside of the cake. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill it with this buttercream just because. So I'm just squeezing the rest of this in here. But again, imagine if that were a filling that needed that kind of thicker dam, then that would be the purpose of having that dam. Okay, so then we're going to add our next layer on top of this that just has the buttercream as the filling. I'm just going to lay it on top. And I like to flip the cake over. So this is it right side up, even though this is a very, very flat cake, you can see, I still just for like to be extra safe, I like to flip it over so that it's super flat from the part of the cake that was baked, because this is the bottom. So you know the bottom of the cake is going to be flat. If you kind of are looking at your cake and it seems like it might be a little like off or maybe it's slanted or whatever, you can, this one isn't, but I'm just going to show you if it were. You can essentially think of your frosting like a tire pump. And if one side of your cake is slanted a little bit, you can just lift up your layer a touch, jam your frosting bag in there and squeeze it. And then it will kind of help fill that off, that kind of lopsidedness of the cake. Again, this isn't, so I can't really show you, but I hope that makes sense. You can, if you need to, you can use your frosting to kind of pump your cake up a little bit. Okay, so next I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and use this color as our crumb coat. So if you're not familiar with a crumb coat, basically what it is a really scrappy layer of frosting to trap in the crumbs that will inevitably kind of peel off as you apply the frosting. It doesn't have to be pretty. In fact, it's like supposed to look messy because again, it's more function than fashion. And so if you had more frosting in a piping bag, in fact, I'll show you how to do that. Hold please while I load a little bit of this frosting in. I'm just going to show you a couple ways you can put this crumb coat on. Are there any questions at this point that I can answer for anyone? No? Okay. Okay, so if you just have some frosting in a pastry bag, then what I like to do is use this turntable. So this is a cake turner. I failed to mention how amazing these things are. They're very, very helpful, and because they do so much of the work for you, meaning you use your kind of less dominant hand to have it do the spinning, and you can just use your dominant hand to to apply the frosting. If you don't have one of these, which there have been times in my life where I forgot one, or I've been traveling in the person's home that I'm there with, maybe they don't have one, it's not completely necessary. One of the things that you can do, it might sound a little scrappy, but you can even just get if you have a number 10 can of, I don't know, beans or something in your pantry to kind of raise it up, then you can just lay like a flat, I don't know, even like a cutting board or like a wood board or whatever, and you can use that. Then you can just kind of gently at the base of whatever you're using to have your flat surface, you can kind of give it little turns that way. But these are really easy. Michael's has them and they're so awesome to work with, but you don't have to have one if you don't want to get one. So you're going to see as I apply the initial frosting for the crumb coat, I'm not going to really move this hand much. All I'm going to do is leave it, and I'm going to spin the cake and let the turner do the work. So I'm just squeezing, have a few little air bubbles, which is fine because this is just crumb coat. So see how I'm not really moving my right hand. All I'm doing is squeezing the frosting out of the bag.
Megan, while you're doing that, there's a couple of questions that have come in.
Okay, let's hear it.
Nicole is wanting to know if she's trying to make red icing, how can she make it red instead of pink?
Ooh. Well, okay, so I should say there are icings of, I prefer like liquid food coloring. And I think the gel, I've had more success with like the gel food colors than I have with like more of the water-based food colors. And the thing that's tricky about red is, I actually was just talking to Matt about this earlier. I'm going to call myself an artist for a minute. As a wannabe artist that uses cake and treats as their medium, it's hard for me sometimes to use those really deep saturated colors because I flip into like consumer mode and I'm like, okay, it looks so beautiful, but also my mouth is going to look red, black, blue, whatever it is. So I kind of like have to battle back and forth between, oh, this is what the customer wants, or it's Valentine's or Christmas and you can't not have these kind of deeper colors. So what I'm getting at is you kind of just have to use excessive amounts of the food coloring in order to achieve that color. It's not my favorite answer because again, I for whatever reason, it doesn't seem particularly appetizing.
Hey guys, we noticed that Megan has paused. If you don't mind, just giving them a second to kind of reset. And while we're waiting, I do want to remind you guys that this class is being recorded and will be available on michaels.com/classes, as well as on our YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours. It does appear that they have logged off, so I'm just kind of waiting for them to log back in. Also, just know that I did put Megan's vanilla buttercream frosting recipe in the chat. If you need it again, please let me know and I will put it in the chat for you guys. Thank you again. I am placing the recipe in the chat. And of course, if you have any questions, if you can, please just put them in the chat because we have all the audio muted at this moment. We still have Matt with American Craft. He is still logged in. He has notified me that they are still currently having some technical issues on their side. And I don't want to mispronounce the name. I think this name is Rachna. I actually have a recipe for Megan's chocolate chip cookies, but I'm not for sure as far as a cake that we currently have available, but we can always ask Megan as soon as she's able to log back in. And for the times that I've been on this class with Megan, as far as her cakes being in the freezer, she does allow them to slightly thaw before she puts her icing on there, but we will ask her again just to make sure. I am checking with them again. Hopefully we can get them logged back in. If for any reason that we have any additional technical issues, we will hopefully have her to be able to do a recording of her class and have it posted online. There she is. Give me 1 second, guys. We're just waiting for her to be able to turn her camera on.
Oh, are we there?
There you are.
Okay. You didn't know it, but that was the intermission. So I hope you went to the bathroom and, you know, made that phone call you needed to, or let the dog out, whatever. So sorry about that. We were all trying to figure out what happened, but Jordan, the magician behind the screen here, got everything figured out. So I was talking to Nicole, right? Still answering Nicole's question about the red food color.
About the
other thing I just wanted to say was that you could also start with like, if you're not like a red food color lover, you could do like a beet juice, which I know sounds sketchy, but with the sugar that's in the frosting, it's not going to taste like dirt. Or you could use strawberries to kind of to get that kind of base color. And then you would use a little bit less of like that super red. So you kind of already have a base with a different, again, if you're not into the super red food coloring, you could use a different to kind of achieve a pinky base, and then use the super red gel to get it that deep color. So obviously I have strong feelings about that. So thank you for sticking it out and staying on with us. So sorry about that. Was there any other questions before I just kind of finish showing the crumb coat?
There are a couple of questions.
Okay.
There was a question in regards to what's a good recipe?
For frosting?
I think they were asking about a cake recipe.
Oh, okay.
That's what it looks
Alicia,
like.
I can get, okay, I'm happy to share that with you. I can't remember now. We've exchanged a lot of recipes over the course of these classes, but I can get that to you and we can share that.
I was able to give them the vanilla buttercream frosting
Okay,
recipe.
Awesome.
I don't think that I had I would have to go back and look and see if I could find any other, but I did have your chocolate. It was a cookie recipe and not a cake recipe.
Oh.
So I will go back and
Okay.
see if I can find any other recipes. And then someone was asking about your experience, I think on Food Network, you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. It was as crazy as you would imagine watching it as a viewer at home. It's a really interesting experience to be on Cupcake Wars, because normally, kind of like what I was talking about earlier with planning ahead and having time and maybe doing stuff and prepping and leaving stuff in freezers for days or whatnot, you're confined to the time clock, and they don't fudge with the time clock at all. And so in a normal, I don't know, everyday at home baking experience, or even just like in our bakeries, you have time to kind of triage. You have extra hands that can help you, and you plan enough that you're going to leave yourself enough time, get the order done in a couple hours before it's actually due or whatever. But you don't have that luxury, so you kind of go into it's a little chaotic. And I would say that the clock was really the thing that kind of was the biggest constraint for me. But yeah, it was so fun. Food Network's amazing, and I had such a great experience. And my assistants that I brought on, they're awesome people. I'm still in touch with them, and yeah, it was so great. So good question.
Not to take away too much from this class, but they were asking, as far as the cakes that you took out of the freezer, did you allow them to thaw before you start decorating?
So I just go like straight to decorating, because what will happen inevitably as you are decorating, it's going to thaw a little bit on its own. So I just like to use it cold, so it's like as sturdy as possible. And it even kind of helps with like the crumb coating process. Like I feel like the crumbs stay on better when they're chilled and kind of frozen to itself. So yeah, I just get straight to decorating from the freezer, and then again, naturally, as you're taking the time to do all the other steps for decorating, it's going to thaw. It's going to thaw enough. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, are we good? Good to keep kind of moving on. So kind of where we left off, and then I started to do some of this during the intermission. So again, thanks for hanging out, sticking on. But all you're going to do is, so I just took a spatula, and essentially I just take and run the spatula around the cake. You're going to see there will be like actual crumbs that come off of the cake, which is the point. And it's really popular these days to do like the kind of sheer look, or some people refer to it as like a naked cake look. And this is the step that if you were going for that look, you would stop at. one thing that I personally do if I'm doing a cake like that, I'll actually thin out my frosting just a little bit more, because I believe it helps not, you're not going to get as many crumbs into the frosting at that stage. And if you're doing it, like, it's really popular for weddings, you know, the rustic look, and I love it. I think it's beautiful. But I also think it's beautiful if it doesn't have a lot of, you know, a lot of crumbs in it. So anyway, so I'm just taking my spatula, and again, I'm just giving it a rough, kind of a little rough go. Oh, look, I wasn't paying attention to the front where there's some missing coverage. And then what I'm going to do next, I actually have a tool. It's like a bench scraper, I guess is the technical word for it. And then I just, again, going back to how I showed you how I did with the piping, where I was piping the frosting on and having this hand do all the work, then do the same thing. I'm going to keep this hand stationary, and I'm just going to move, have my less dominant hand turn the cake turner. Let it do its work, the work for me. So see that? So that's a crumb coat, friends. Super easy, super necessary, I might add, in my opinion. Helps trap in the crumbs. So due to time and just the nature of the studio, we have a little TV magic that's about to happen. We have a cake that has been crumb coated with white frosting that we did ahead of time. And here she is in all her glory. And I'm just going to show you a few things that you can do to really give it a fun little look. I'm just going to clean up my station for just a sec.
And Megan,
Now
while you're doing
again,
that,
oh yeah, go ahead.
one quick question. How long do you keep your cakes in the freezer?
So I keep my cakes in the freezer. If I'm actively working on it and I'm just like throwing it in there because I want it to set up so then I can come back and kind of finish more steps, 10, 15 minutes maybe. If I've completed a cake and I'm, you know, making it ahead of time for the weekend or whatever, for my niece's birthday or whatnot, I'll just make sure that it's covered completely, that it's sealed, meaning saran wrap. There's some like cake boxes that like snap seal that you could store it in. I've even used unscented garbage, unscented garbage bags. Not in the bakeries. We don't do that in the bakeries, don't worry. But like at home, I'll just put them in. It's got to be unscented because you don't want like, you know, lavender citrus smell on your cake or whatever. But you just want to make sure it's airtight, and you can leave it in the freezer for a long time. I mean, as long as it's airtight, days, weeks. I don't know that you would ever need to leave it in for months because you're probably doing it for an event that's, you know, a few days away. But as long as it stays airtight, you can leave it in for kind of as long as you want. So I hope that was helpful. We just so you know what I'm doing here, this cake came straight from the freezer, and these lights are pretty warm, so there is a little bit of condensation. So if that happens to you, I don't know what different climates you guys are in. I'm sure some of you are places where it's super humid. You can just take a paper towel, just kind of wipe off any beading or any of the, it's called sweat from the cake. So, but okay, but this is kind of what I was talking about, that naked look. Like, how pretty is that? I think it's beautiful. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of switch gears, and I'm gonna fill a little bit, put a little bit of this beautiful white frosting that we have, and I'm gonna mix it with some of this kind of deeper teal that we have, because I have a cake drip that, again, you can get at your local Michaels store, and we're going to do a fun drip on it. But I just don't want the drip and the frosting to be like the same color. Personal preference. There's no right or wrong in creativity, right? So you do whatever you think looks good to your eye, and it will be darling. So I started with white, and then I used this kind of darker buttercream as the concentrate, essentially. So you can see this color is way lighter than the buttercream straight from the little canister. And then, oops, I'm gonna take it and kind of just like sporadically put it on the cake. Just to kind of give it, I think I will leave a little bit of that naked look. Then I'm going to take some of this darker, so there's some contrast, and honestly there's no like formula. I'm just adding little pieces or little dollops kind of here or there. And then I'm going to come back with this bench scraper again, and oops, and it's kind of like you're undoing a little bit of what you've just done, but it just gives it like a cool kind of watercolory look. The top, we are going to use the drip, so I'm going to probably just leave that like that. I will show you, how are we on time? It's going to say, okay. Yeah, I'll microwave this drip. So if there's any questions, we have about 20 seconds while this heats up. You're going to want to take off your lid when you microwave it, and we're going to give it heat it up a little bit. And then I'm going to add some of this frosting. Yes, go ahead.
There is one question. They're asking if you don't have the cake airtight, kind of basically what happens to it. I would think that it would taste like freezer.
Yeah, it just kind of, yeah, like, and you know, it depends on the freezer, meaning like you probably wouldn't want to put it in with a freezer that has a lot of like other stuff that isn't airtight. Like if your freezer smells like leftovers, or I don't know, like it might sound gross, but like we have like a meat freezer. My husband's a hunter, and I you know, it's specific for that, but you just wouldn't want it to kind of, you don't want it to kind of take in the flavors and the smells of what's in there with it. So with that said, like if you have a freezer, which some of you might, that's just specific, like, you know, for your at-home business where you put all your cakes in there or whatever, it's, I'm sure, totally fine in there, because all that's in there is, you know, delicious buttercreamed cakes. But you just want to be wary of the leftover takeout Chinese food or the pizza that's in there, because it could adopt some of the smells of that. I hope that makes sense. If that makes sense. All right. So we've got our drip. This is really convenient. I just put the lid on and I'm shaking it, and the top, you just twist it, and we're just gonna give it a go. Oops. Hold please. Maybe we're gonna give it a go. All right, there we go. This tip is being a little silly sauce. So I'm going to cut it because I think this was a reused one that we used earlier. So there was a little bit of stuff happening. All right. Matt's going to fix this for me and I'll fill you in on whatever he fixes, but I'm going to just move on to the step, then I'll come back to that. So I just loaded some frosting into some piping bags. And all I'm going to do is take, here's some different tips. There's some open star tips. There's some kind of like, this one's a closed star tip. Michael's has an awesome variety of different frosting tips. And some of you probably have some at home. I'm going to pick a couple of them. And all I did was put the tip in, cut the end of the plastic off, and then I'm going to take this bag that has frosting in it, and I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to put it in this bag. So then when I move on to another color, I can just take out this bag of frosting, put in the white or the darker blue or whatever it is. And we're just gonna add some little doodads right here. All right. So I'm just evenly applying some pressure and squeezing, and nothing super hard about that. Just having the tip and the pastry bag is what's important. So Matt was able to get the gunk out from our previously used bottle of drip. So I'm just going to show you how simple this is. Oops, let's see what angle so I can have you guys see it as well. So you just kind of hold it at the top of the cake, the edge of the cake rather, and you just kind of squeeze. And you can, all I'm doing is like nudging it over the edge a little bit. And if you kind of keep applying that equal pressure and keep squeezing, you'll see that that little drip goes a lot longer. If I just do it once, it's going to go shorter, longer, right? So we're going to just do kind of like a quarter of the cake, just like that. Just kind of, just a fun little detail, but obviously you could do that all around the cake and that would also look so great. I'm going to just kind of swoop that over like that. Okay. In this set that's at Michael's, again, I hope you guys all have a chance to go and see. There are some really, really fun options for sprinkles and embellishments. And there's this mix is, I don't know if you can get a good like close up of that, but it's very like traditional mermaidy colors and feels. And that's what we're going to use just to add a little bit of life here. Oops. I'm trying to, okay, there we go. So I'm just going to add a few more dollops. With this color, I'm not even going to put like a tip in it. I'm just going to straight up pipe some little circles, some dots. I'll fill it in right here. All right, then this is where the fun part comes. We've got these icing decorations. Okay, these come pre-made. You don't have to go through the effort or the time of rolling out fondant and letting it stick up and dry. We have these cute little seashells. So it's hard for me to like see the front and also decorate it, but I'm just gonna add them. Now with this, excuse me, with the mermaid tail topper, you will want to, either, let's see, let's pretend this was like a knife. You could like kind of cut out a tiny little cavity of the cake to kind of rest it in, and then just build up the backside with some frosting. Or you could, in my case, I'm going to add some frosting here. And then I'm going to grab some, we have these super fun, different colored like gumballs. I'm going to add these in the back, kind of like reinforcement for it to rest on, like that. So you can see it's like supporting it. Sometimes when I do cakes, like I'll put cookies or little cake bites, or like we have these darling lollipops. You could totally use one of those in the back to just kind of help it stay up. But this is sturdy. It's not gonna go anywhere on you. And then I'm just gonna add some of these pretty sprinkles. We have icing toppers that are smaller little mermaid tails. So maybe this is like a little mermaid family. So fun. We have shark fins. We can put a rogue shark in here too, because why not?
Hey, Megan, we have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
Once you have allowed your cake to chill and from your crumb coating, do you put on another coating?
Oh, that's a really good question. And yes, normally if you're not going, so see how I kind of left some of the cake, I purposely left this cake kind of exposed in that sheer look. But yes, if you were doing, let's say you didn't want to see any of the cake, you would essentially just repeat the crumb coat, meaning you just add on more frosting, and you can take your bench scraper. If you're going for a smooth look, you take your bench scraper, you get it nice and smooth, and you just add frosting till you can't see through the frosting anymore. The other thing is, and I can show you here on the back side, like you could take your spatula and let's see, the kind of like the messy look, right? Kind of like rough. You can add it on like, you know, like this. Because you're obviously, if you're adding more frosting after the crumb coat, then you're not probably trying to see the cake underneath. But you can just do, you can go up and down with your spatula and go for like that kind of messy look. You can swipe your spatula in horizontal lines, give it a look that way. Again, you can kind of do that messy look, which I just say is kind of like doing a bunch of little S's on your cake. And especially in this one, that's very fitting because it looks watery, right? But yeah, good question. Because of our intermission, we kind of skipped that step here on this cake. But the thing that's so fun that I love about what we have in Michael's right now for you guys is I really tried to like think outside the box and take the years of my, you know, experience seems a little much to put it that way, but just things that I've come across in my years of doing this every day and give you guys solutions, right? So we've paired some really pretty, you know, colored chip mixes together that I think, yeah, this is a popular color scheme. And there's a lot of people who want mermaid cakes, right? So we have these chips that are colored that way. We have some gumballs that are curated that again kind of go along with that theme. We have super cute like little quins. These are seashells, and it's been so fun because I've been able to kind of take again my experience and then just be creative with coming up with solutions for my fellow friends and people that I know are doing this at home that probably don't have the luxury of, you know, being able to source some of this stuff bulk on their own if you were, you know, needing to. So anyway, this is just so fun. My husband always teases me. He's like, you should stop while you're ahead when you're making cakes, because I will just keep going and going and going. And that's where I feel like, you know, my little warm and fuzzy thing to leave with you is just believe in yourself and don't feel like there's a right or wrong way to be creative, because it's really like what you see, what you feel, the colors that you like it's totally up to you. And just in learning with the new, you know, maybe you're learning new tools or learning with new tools or hearing some new tips and tricks for the first time, just give yourself, like, go easy on yourself. Don't expect it to be perfect. Don't hold Pinterest or professional bakers as your standard, right? You just go easy on yourself, know that you can do it, have fun while you do it. And yeah, if you go to Michael's, there's all the things for you to make this darling cake and so many others. So I hope you guys have had fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience during the technical difficulty, and have an awesome end of your summer, and stay in touch, because I'm back here once or twice a month doing lots of other fun things with candy and cookies and meltables and all sorts of things. So I'll see you then.
Megan, before you
Yeah.
sign off, if you
Yes.
could just really quick, if you can show them how to use the drip one more time.
Oh,
And
yes.
then if you can, there was a question whether or not if you have to use buttercream or if you can use the whipped cream icing.
Oh, so yeah. So okay, so here's the thing with the whipped cream. I'm gonna put this in the microwave for like 10 seconds just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. So here's the thing with whipped cream. It is, the consistency of it is so different because it obviously doesn't have the heaviness of all that butter in it. And so it's how I would describe it is that it's just more like liquidy. So I don't know if you've tried this, but like if you've made whipped cream and you've done a shortcake or whatever you put on the exterior of your cake, like if it doesn't live in the fridge, then it's going to kind of start to like melt and droop off. So what happens if you're using whipped cream and using any of these other elements is you're going to kind of get that like drippy effect. It's not like, unless you essentially made butter out of it, like if you whipped it and made it so stiff, like it probably wouldn't hold some of the embellishments. But with that said, whipped cream is like beyond delicious. And so I would totally use it on the exterior for cakes all day long. I just wouldn't recommend it for doing cakes like this that are like kind of over the top, highly decorated. It will for sure hold, like you put whipped cream on there, you splatter, you know, you kind of put sprinkles on there, totally, it'll hold that for sure. But because it is wet, like wetter, then it just isn't strong enough to kind of hold all the things in place, if that makes sense, I hope. Oh, and then the drip, right? I'm showing you the rest of the drip. Okay, so this, sorry, like I said, this was used previously, and so we had to do a little cleaning job, but it just there's different colors. You'll see it sets up. It's not like super hard and crunchy setup. It's still a little bit like you could easily cut through. It's not gonna like snap in half. And so let's see, I'll do some over the buttercream. And I'm just squeezing, applying equal amounts of pressure. So it's not a continuous drip, right? Because it's not smooth. This has some texture to it. So you're not gonna get that same consistent line, but you'll see what happens when I move over here where there is, you're gonna get clean lines. This is like mesmerizing, right? So here, we'll finish off right here. Because why not? And then again, I just keep adding all the fun things that you can find. See how I'm just kind of like hucking them at the cake, right? If the frosting is still kind of tacky, it'll it'll stick to it, but there you go. Are there any other questions? I'm happy to answer them if so.
There's a few, and we just may have to do it offline, but
Okay.
I just want to thank everyone for coming.
Yeah, thanks guys. You're so great. Thank you. Thank you.